Oh, you can go watch it. It's on the Logitech camera.
Speakers. Oh, yeah. I know you have.
Oh, that looks good.
Is it actually? Is it putting you through Google right now when you're seeing that?
Yep.
Or is it-
Should be. Should be out there on the
Yeah.
YouTube channel. So we could go here and we could go to my dashboard. I think. Now we could go to here and we could say. I don't know how you get to. Oh, here it is. Recent posts. 519. 519. That's what my watch says. My hair looks.
Is it little delay.
A little delay. Yep. I'm gonna mute this.
It's not as bright as it is, but it's.
No.
I don't think that's bandwidth for us necessarily, though. Do you?
No, I don't think so. I think that might just be this camera and the mixed lighting we're getting here. So I think that's good.
Well, what I meant was that it looks choppier on there than it does in your when you have it on the other thing. Because this is going through YouTube right here, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you had it back in the other one, it's a lot clearer.
Right. Yeah. I think that's local. It's local. So I can shut this and refresh that. And take this, put it over in. It's gonna be tricky with just extra monitor.
Oh, that should be okay. Yeah. And you just follow along, and we will have Spice's presentation later to it after the fact, so you can go through it at home again with your own computer.
Do you have a PC?
I'm back.
Oh, you do? Yeah. I'm gonna try to set something.
Somewhere. There are things.
It does tell you something, I'm thinking.
Back to there. I was checking out the actual YouTube, because you can do the Hangout or you can do the streaming from their live air things with a Flash Media Encoder or this other $200 Wirecast program. It's pretty slick. And it gives you a whole bandwidth meter, tells you how you're doing, how much is going out, how many frames are being dropped to keep the level. And you can choose whether to drop frames or or just degrade the quality. It's really slick. I was only tempted to buy it, but it's $199.
Ouch.
That's not cheap, and I don't know how often I'm going to do this. I'd like to start doing the podcasts live, plus a recorded one that goes out that gets edited and is a little more polished. So we'll see. Excuse me. Hi.
I just saw your ad, so I haven't pre-registered. I didn't know if you have the full cost.
Okay, we have 40 people registered.
Check over my shoulder?
So, and there's only 32 chairs in here
I've
right
been
now.
looking for
So you're
some
looking kind of like
PC,
alert.
but
And if there's an empty chair 5 minutes in, I think
Yeah, I
I'll
guess for
enjoy
fun
it.
purposes, more choose
yeah, I guess. Thanks. But something I haven't done before.
Oh, okay. I do a lot.
All right.
You do a lot?
Okay.
And it works fine.
Oh, good.
Great. Yeah, that should be okay. Thanks, John. Thanks for everything. Hi, folks. How are you all? Good. Good. Hi.
Did you come on your bicycle?
I did not come on my
It's
bicycle.
raining.
I know.
It's pretty wet.
Yeah.
Just water.
Just water. You won't dissolve.
If you're carrying a camera, then computer.
Just water.
Are all these seats going to be taken?
I'm told that 40 people are registered.
Yeah.
I
So-
tried to register and I couldn't. I don't know.
Did it say it was full or?
It just kept kicking my name out. And I've taken other classes here and registered.
Working fine?
Yeah.
Are there outlets somewhere?
There are not many outlets.
Oh.
There are very few, which is a downside to this room that I didn't know anything about.
We'll have to share some photos.
Yeah.
Two on this side. Is that?
So do you do this for more than a hobby?
No, only a hobby.
Oh, okay.
Only a hobby. But for the fair amount.
I like the bit up front.
So there was
Think about looking at
Photoshop.
Oh,
There you go.
There we go. Hey, power strips. We could even daisy chain. I'm sure we wouldn't start a fire.
Figure out where I can sit.
Yeah, that's the challenge. There you go.
So, let's do this.
Guys, I think if we put one here, we can kind of like.
If we do one here, stretch it in the middle. Maybe even could do another one back that way, but then I don't think there's anything over here along the windows other than.
Yeah, there's just the one on the post.
One on the post. I'm glad you're. Which, oh, the post right there. So we could come out front ways. Oh, yeah, we can make this work. So we do. You're not gonna raise the lower the screen. We do this one.
You want to pass it back?
Should we do?
That cardinal is there.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody
Supposed to
ever
be.
knows that.
Oh, really?
Great.
Well, we might get better at the beginning of the semester telling everybody then.
I'd like to do one.
Oh, we do have one more too, so we could. I don't know
That should be in.
how crazy we want to be, but.
Seem like it's gonna be enough?
Yeah, I'm gonna get in. There's two outlets right here too. Oh, okay. So I think this area is actually fine.
Oh, is it?
There's another one on the other side of this post and back.
Oh, is it?
Yeah. So this row is the only row that's
That's
actually
where everybody's-
equipped.
Then do we feel like we should use this house?
I mean, if we get people in the back here,
I'll sit in here now. All right. Now, it's very tall.
Now, don't stir the pot.
Malcolm?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Just trying to remember.
Thanks for the notice around.
This address right here will get you to this Google Doc. It's publicly available. Let me make that a little bigger. Which has at least 75% of what we're going to cover today. I never know how ambitious to be when I'm putting these together. And I was a little less ambitious. You all might not feel like that in about 15, 20 minutes, but I did. dial it back a little bit in the hope of leaving some time at the end for questions and kind of some more hands-on in areas that you want to work on for a few minutes.
We can email that out to everyone after the class, so you don't have to be looking at this doc on your own laptop the entire time. You'll be able to more present with what Tobias is presenting.
And for better or worse, it is all being recorded and shared live right now to YouTube. So if everybody waves, you can wave hi to YouTube. And that'll be mostly pointing at me, but every once in a while I'm pointing at you. And that URL that it's going to, well, actually I could just put it in there now and then it's there, is not there, but there. I'll put it at the, no, I'll put it at the top.
No matter which address we connect to.
No, I think you'll need to do Marlboro Open. I'm not sure what UI Comcast is. UI. We will get started in just a minute or two.
If you haven't signed in yours, wouldn't mind coming up and just checking your name off if it's on the list and adding your name. Maybe send you the registration out. That's it, if you're not on the list.
She takes care of me.
We're not too rowdy.
Sometimes it takes a little while. It's been a while. Has it been a while? Turn your wireless back off for a second. So click on that little Wi-Fi symbol right there. Yep. And say turn Wi-Fi off. Let's sit for a second. It was funny for me too. Yeah, I remember that. Start. You should. Now try. Back out. So what you get. Gail, you don't want to sit right here? Well, usually
Oh, good.
That's always a plus.
Oh, yeah.
There definitely is a few open seats, so.
I don't know how anything to do that.
There's some
There's not a password. It's called
Yes, but I'm not getting
It's
not connected either.
No.
It's telling me I need a mobile college username and password.
And then it's again, yes.
Should be a variety of options.
Try
I
that.
think I'm getting
And put in.
Marlboro staff, Marlboro.
Yes. Folks, you should be able to connect as a guest in that login screen. That's your Marlboro username and password. Right below that is a link to connect as a guest. And that should work.
Yeah, that's.
It sometimes still does take a little bit longer than we're used to, but it will then work. How many folks have successfully connected so far? Successfully connected. Well, it's not many hands. Okay.
I had to restart.
Yes.
To make it
Usually
happen.
after restart.
Yeah. To get technical on you all, it has to release it's got a hold on the wrong wireless that first time when you're first logging in. A restart will often force it to lose its grip and then it connects to the right one. And I'm not actually talking about the little wireless thing, but so it gets complicated quick. You should be able to, yes. Yeah. Try going someplace now. Let's see.
No. Someone out.
Wait another.
How's the back row doing that here?
No.
So the good thing is we can start talking about some of these things as we're working and getting you all online. And I think I'm actually going to introduce Angie first to talk a little bit about how these programs happen and give you a little bit more information about this.
Great. So hi everyone.
Hi.
I'm Angie. I work primarily actually up at Marlboro's undergraduate campus, but I do help to run the hot and mix workshop series that are here at the Grad Center. Tonight's workshop is a hot workshop. That means hands-on technology. It's presented by our Teaching with Technology Masters program. You guys all have a little handout from the program, so you can kind of check out what that is. This is our sponsor tonight, what the program options are there. The sister series is MIX, which is the Management Ideas Exchange, and that's sponsored by our MBA programs. We've got an MBA in sustainability here. We also have the MDO in managing permission-driven organizations. That workshop series is concluded, and this is the last hot of the year, so you guys are very lucky to have made it in the end of our cycle here. We start up again in the fall with a new series of hot and mixed workshops. They're always free. Typically, the hot workshops have been these evening, Tuesday, once a month time slots, and mix is a lunch hour time slot on Tuesdays once a month, and they're all free. I don't know exactly how you found out about us, but wherever you went, keep going there because that's where we will be advertising in the future. We usually do the sign up through Eventbrite, as everyone who successfully registered knows. If you would please sign in, we will, as Tobias and I mentioned, be sending out links to his doc here and also the presentation, everything that you need after the fact so that you don't feel like you need to be staring at your screen or taking notes during the presentation, really be an active participant. It's a hands-on technology workshop. So without further ado, I suppose, we will introduce Tobias. He can tell you a little bit more about himself.
We're still working through some connection issues, but as I said, I'll start talking. And Angie, maybe if you would go see if you can find John here. See if he's available to come help with a couple more of the issues. He might know a little bit better.
One of the things that happened to me was I got an email
Yes.
after I registered as a guest, and I had to click on a link in the email to actually be accepted as a
Be accepted. I thought there was a grace period. I don't usually teach down here, but I thought there was a grace period that would give you some access prior. So, okay. So let me talk a little bit more about myself and what I'm doing here and what I find out what you all are doing here. Because I have an idea, but I'd like to hear from you. So my name is Tobias. I am the registrar at Marlboro College, the one up on the hill, for about 3 more days. And I am then going to transition into running full-time a YouTube channel and blog that helps people learn how to take better photos and pick cameras and all of that stuff. So I have business cards as a complete shameless plug right over here that you are welcome to take on your way out. They look like little pictures. Do you want to help me wireless? One was right here. There we go. Yeah. Frederick will try his best to help you with any wireless connection issues.
Is that Y-I-N or Y-J? I'm the J.
Yeah, it's a J. Yeah, and I believe it's case sensitive as well. I think it is. So I'm going to run that full time, and if you all end up with questions after tonight that we don't get answered, feel free to reach out to me either through this workshop, they have my address, or through some of the sites that I'll show you tonight. But yeah, I think I got a couple takeaways that I want you to come away from this workshop with. One that is, we're talking about photos here. and I don't care if it's a photo of your cat or a blurry photo of a flower in your backyard. If you took it, it must be important to you, and please make sure that it doesn't only exist in one place. So we're going to be talking a little bit about backing up and some ways to do it without thinking, because I'll be honest, the solutions where you have to say, oh, it's time for me to do my monthly backup, I don't do very well with those because I don't remember. Even when I set calendar reminders, I'm out somewhere and I'll say I'll do that when I get home, and then weeks go by. So we want to do some no-think backup solutions. Another one is that Dropbox is awesome. I don't work for these folks, but this is a complete shameless plug for them. That is an awesome service that will do automatic backups from your phone as you take pictures, and we'll look at another option for that as well. And also just allow you to sync photos and share photos across multiple devices. So that's really nice as well. We got another one over there, Frederick. And that Google Plus Photos is even awesomer, which I know isn't really a word, but it is important enough to get that across and to use that word in this case, because that's great. Now, there are some downsides to any or all of these services, and you know, we've got to talk about those, but we'll touch on them. Okay. So, as I said, some of you are just coming in. All of this is being recorded and streamed out to YouTube, or I should say it's being streamed out to YouTube and recorded. So if you find it so fascinating that you want to go home and watch it again in high definition, you will be able to do that. So feel free to not have to feel like you're taking a ton of notes and to catch everything I'm saying. All of this information is going to be out there for you. I wanted to use my cell phone to take a quick burst. How do you all feel about, because it's gonna tie back into something a little bit later. How do you all feel about doing the wave? You don't even have to stand. You can just do your hands. And I'm not even sure this will work, but let's see here. So I shake my phone to make the picture come on. It's really ironic because I'm a photographer. I love my cell phone. I have an Android phone, but the camera is really not that great. But it works. I think maybe for ease of use, this side is more photogenic at the moment, so no offense. So if over here, on the count of 3, if we could do just an arm wave from one side of the room to the other and then back, that would be great. Yes, the lighting. We got the nice light. That's right. Actually, I'm shoving it into the. And all the people on YouTube are missing. It's fun. Sorry, YouTube people. Okay. On the count of 3, ready? 1, 2, 3. Oh, okay. You just decided to do differently. That works. Okay. Thanks. We're going to come back and look at that in a little while, if everything works as I hope it will. Okay. So as I said, this document is public, and one of the reasons why it might be nice to get into this document to take some time is because it has another longer link in it that gives you access to some photos if you don't have any that you want to work with. So I've got some photos up for you to work with.
Can you read what that URL is? I'm getting my 404.
Okay.
So I'm not sure of it.
So it is http://goo.gl. This is Google shortener. / that's a / all lowercase y, J as in James, N as in Nancy, capital J as in James, lowercase e as in Echo, V as in Victor.
It's not working. It isn't working.
Really? What happens if I...
Mine worked.
Mine worked too.
No, didn't.
Let's, I don't know how to make it any shorter right now. For those who it isn't working, can you look off a neighbor to get that URL so you can get it working? And I'm going to just plow ahead a little bit because otherwise we won't cover much. All right. So the first question I have for you all is what type of photographer are you all in this room? Let me see a raise of a hand if you have taken a picture in this past week. Okay. Now let me see how many of you have taken a picture in the last week that wasn't with a cell phone. Great. And how many of you have taken a picture in the last week that wasn't a cell phone, wasn't a point and shoot? So something like a DSLR or an interchangeable lens camera? Great. Good. I'm just curious. You know, Angie and I were talking about this as we were walking down the hill. We both work up on the hill. We didn't walk all of the way to our cars. And, you know, cell phones are awesome. You just saw me take a picture, even though I was complaining a little bit about the quality, because it's always with you. That's one of the huge benefits of the cell phone. But I am also a professional photographer along with running this other things, and so I do take lots of pictures. And I wonder, so most of you, almost all of you raised your hand have taken the picture in the last week. Let me see, again, show of hands, how many people have taken more than 20 pictures in the last week? More than 50? More than 100? More than 500? Does that include time lapses? Are you doing some time lapses or not? Just
No, I was photographing.
nice. Okay, good. More than 1,000. Nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay, that's good. Yes. Yes. Sorry. Let me get more real estate because we don't need to see that. And then I can pull this down a little bit. All right. Now, for your own information, as a professional wedding photographer and as a wedding photography assistant, we come home from a weekend wedding, and then sometimes we'll have 5,000, 6,000, 7,000 pictures to deal with. It's quite a lot, and they're big pictures. So we'll talk. But here's a more important question: is how many of you could find your favorite photo that you took within the last month easily? Good number. Okay. And how would you do that? Can someone give me an idea of how they would find their favorite photo they took in the last month? Or let's make it a little harder, in the last year. You keep them organized? In like one sentence, tell us how you keep them organized.
Different folders and themes, and then just enable.
Yep.
So I always get what I need.
All on your machine?
Some on my machine, some on a camera, some on a backup flash drive, back on the other hard drive.
Good. Anybody else want to answer that? How they stay? It's basically the answer is staying organized, but how you can find a favorite picture you took in the last week, last year.
Yeah, clustered by file names, clustered by some subjects that are of interest to me.
Yep. All right.
The newest aim and shoot I bought has when it downloads it by month. So
Yeah.
it's been really easy to keep track of.
Keep track of them. So you can remember from 2 years ago which month you took your favorite picture in?
Sometimes I can.
Good.
Yeah, sometimes I can.
That's how sometimes I can as well, and
Yeah.
sometimes I'm like,
Yeah.
was that when I went out in March or was it June? And then you spend a lot of time. So we're going to look at some ways to fix that. One of the things about this workshop description, I think that I saw after the fact was that the word free got used up in the title because all of these workshops are free, but we really are going to focus on mostly free options in this class as well for kind of staying organized and for editing your pictures. So there's really two parts to this workshop: staying organized and editing. And we are going to touch on some really nice programs that aren't necessarily free because there is some benefit to those as well. But let's see. Look at this fact. 350 million photos are uploaded to Facebook every day. Every day. I think that's just amazing. That's a fact from September 2013. So we're, coming up on a solid more than 6 months ago. Way more than 6 months since it's almost June now. Okay. So let's look at organizing first. How many of you have a Google account? Gmail? Google or Gmail? Many of you. Okay. Google offers some really nice free tools. The best. And they have this little term called Auto Awesome. And I mentioned that in the description for this course about Auto Awesome your photos. It's a really easy way to do something. So, if you have a Gmail account, you also have a Google Plus account. You may not have enabled it yet, but they've made that available for everybody. So I'm going to switch over, show you a very private side of my life. It's my backup of my Google Plus images. So where do I want to go? I'm going to go, well, I have to go to Mail first. I should bookmark it. And then I want to click this right here. There you go. And Then down here, I'm going to go to the Hangout real quick and share my screen. Okay. Whoops, sorry. What am I supposed to do? Allow that. Okay, so now the screen is recording. All right, here we are in Google+, which, for those who don't know, briefly, it's Google's attempt to be more social and be more Facebook-like. Lots of rumors about it not doing nearly as well and possibly dying at some point in the future. But part of that won't die, I feel confident in saying, is their photos section of Google+. So we're just at plus.google.com, and you could do /photos, and it comes up. Now, I went to the eye doctor last week, and they put those drops in your eyes. So I took a nice selfie of myself. So as I said, I have Google+ on my smartphone running. So this is kind of aside from the other part. And any picture I take on this phone is automatically sent to Google+. Privately, not shared out with anybody except for me. I hear these horror stories of these parents with cute little kids. Well, every parent has a cute kid if they have a kid. Taking tons of pictures and then losing their cell phone or getting it stolen or something terrible happening to it, like it goes in the toilet. And all of those pictures they've taken are gone. So really, there's a couple different options for backing up pictures on your phone as you take them. And this service is completely 100% free, and it's called Google+. And all you have to do to enable it is download the Google+ app on your phone. This is Android or iOS. It works for both, and it works really well. For those of you, and I didn't see very many hands not go up when I asked if you have a Google account. Some people have. Some people don't like to sell their soul to Google, and that's fine. Dropbox is another option that will do this as well. If you download the app, it will prompt you during the install to say, would you like me to back up your photos? And again, that is private just to you. One of the benefits, each service is slightly different. One of the benefits to the Google+ service is that they're all nicely online in this gallery that you can then share out with people, and it organizes them somewhat automatically for you, which is really nice. And, oh wait, there's more. And I don't work for Google either, it will kind of auto-awesome your pictures if you let it. Now, I don't always find that it does the best job because sometimes it'll put snowflakes on snowy scenes, and I don't, if I've taken a nice picture of the snowy woods, I don't actually want fake snowflakes falling in it. But most of the time, it increases the sharpness a little bit, it increases the saturation and the contrast just a little bit, subtly. Doesn't overdo it, which is something humans often do when they're editing their pictures. They overdo those things if they start to edit it. And it looks quite good. Well, I don't think we're seeing any real examples of auto awesome here, but well, let's go through right there. But it's as I said, it's very subtle. If we click on one of them, oh yeah, we can see. So it's enhanced this. And now this picture actually, a little aside, was taken with a DSLR that has wireless. It went over to my phone, and then my phone was smart enough to send it to Google+. But the moral of the story is Google+ or Dropbox to make sure you're backing up all of your photos you're taking on your cell phone. Because a lot of hands went up when I said taking pictures on your cell phone, lots of you. That doesn't solve the issue, though, for those on your computer, but Google recently announced or released this little app that sits on your computer and does the exact same thing. It will watch folders you specify and automatically back up anything that lands in those folders. And we're having the fun here of lack of screen real estate, but somewhere up here in my little menu bar is, there it is, Google+ Auto Backup. It's completely free, and there's a link to it in this document that we've been in. I don't think we're going to be able to get into the preferences of it because I don't have enough screen real estate. So then you get this mix of pictures that are coming off of your phone and off of your, and that's kind of psychedelic there, off of your computer. Let's hit refresh real quick and see if the new stuff has happened yet. No, I think it hasn't. I know what I need to do. Well, I'll work on that in a second. And you can see that they're all organized by date. That's all there. And Google also recently added this thing called Stories. Here I am, just took pictures of Skyping with my sister-in-law and my new niece. But you can see we have some animation here in a second, and we'll come back to that as well. Now, I think the best thing to do right now is do a quick tour, because this is the nicest outline of everything that Google does. So auto backup, every photo you take, it all goes up here. We'll talk about costs in a minute and things like that. The auto enhance, which you can turn off or turn on. The auto awesomeness, which makes animations from a burst of images, smart enough to stitch together images that could be stitched into a panorama. So if I turned around here and took several images of this nice hillside, it stitched them all together. There's one other thing it does, the snowfall. And for April Fool's joke, they inserted David Hasselhoff into the background of some people's pictures. It was actually quite amazing how well it did, and it did fool my mom. I'm glad it did, so I can tell that story now. She said, never mind. I'll tell it at the end if you want to hear it. It's not that good. Okay, and then auto highlights, find your best shots faster. So that's the highlight, and then it goes into more of that information down here. You can see an original versus an enhanced picture there. And we got a nice GIF there. What else? Oh, the smile. So if you take a burst of images, it will find the one where the most people are smiling. You say, well, how does it do this? In fact, I've heard some people say this is starting to get a little creepy. But here's where it gets even creepier. Let's go back. So see this right here? Search for your photos. So this is my next point. So yeah, they're all up here. They're all up here by date. But as I said, I don't necessarily remember if that awesome picture I took was in June of last year or March, or maybe I'm thinking of 2012 because time just seems to go faster and faster. So let's say that I do remember that it was of a tree. So I can search for tree. And it's now found some pictures. How did it do this? Did I tell it these are pictures of trees? I didn't. This is Google being a little creepy, but also harnessing their incredible power and knowledge of the internet and being able to recognize things that look like trees. And you know, it didn't hit all of the pictures I've gotten, so we'll talk about what you should do to make sure that the ones that are important to you are getting picked up later. But it did a pretty neat job, and I got a show all button there that I can come down and I can click show all, and it will show me more pictures of trees from my library. Now again, these are all just private to me. I may have shared some of these out in other places. Look at this cute little face. I thought this was a cute little face. And you can see that, and you know, there's an ice storm damage in Maryland from a while ago. And then so down here, maybe not so good. There are definitely some that aren't all trees, but still, without doing anything at all, no thinking involved. It has brought these images from wherever I've been taking them, put them up there, and when I wanted to search tree, it found them.
Can it search for more than one word at once?
Oh, that's a great question. Give me another thing. I don't know if you do a comma or a space. Let's see what happens if we say tree and flowers. I found some geraniums, right? Different. That's a good question. I don't know. I wonder if operators like and tree and flowers, we get the same thing. That's something to research a little bit more. And you should, well, I know you can use some operators to remove stuff. So what if we didn't want flowers? Let's see if those, still found those. Okay. But, so as I said, you can't rely on that to find everything because it's got to be able to recognize it as a tree from using its Google brain. But if you have tagged your images, and we'll talk more about that soon, you could then use those tags to find, I have a daughter, her name is Fiona, and I should be able to share and find, some of these pictures are really old. I actually recently, do as I say, not as I do. Recently I tried out this service that moved a huge number of photos from one place that I backed them up to Google+, and as a result, the chronology here is now really confused because these new pictures that came over, Google recognizes them as new, so they're in a little bit of a weird order. These are, she's 11 now, so these are, you know, or 10, almost 11, quite old. But now, how did it know this was Fiona? It's not that smart. It knew this because at some point I named this file Fiona Points. So now it's looking at file names and at keywords and tags. And we're going to look at how you can assign those locally as well. But let's see. Here, I've been talking a lot. I need to take a drink of water. So here's what I want us to do. Those of you who have a Google account and are in here, get yourself a picture in here and edit it. And I haven't shown that yet. So you say, wait a second, you haven't shown that yet. All you need to do is to get into Google+. That was at plus.google.com/photos, and then hit the edit button. And we'll talk more about that when I find my bottle of water. And does anybody have any questions why they're pulling that up that I can answer?
So we have to enable our Google Plus to get it.
You do have to if you've never enabled it yet. And I can't think of any downsides to that, but don't hold me to it. I have sold my soul to Google. And, you know, I use Google Docs. I've used Google Docs now. That was the last workshop I held here. Was anybody at that Google Docs workshop? Any repeats? No? Okay. Let's just trace it. Yeah. Sorry. But I've used Google Docs now for about 6 years and absolutely love it. And as I said, I'm trying to transition into using Google Photos more and more because it is mostly free. We'll look at what cost is when you start thinking about lots of images. So it's the way to keep it free is to keep your images under a certain size, but beyond that, it does start to charge you. Thank you very much for that. Was he able to help you? Go ahead and now go to plus.google.com/photos. And then you can just click on any photo and bring up this editing window. Which I just want to kind of step back a second and say that the tools that we have available to us in the browser now are amazing. And you don't have to be in Chrome, but you should be in a modern browser.
It's download. It is giving me the photo editing requires.
Oh, is it really? I'm sorry, I didn't know that. Are you in Chrome? Sorry about that. I should have tested that in other browsers. It does want you to use Chrome, so if you don't, and that is another browser. It's like Internet Explorer and Firefox. It's completely free. It's made by Google. You understand what they're trying to do here? Trying to get you completely to sell your soul to Google. Again, I'm fine with that because I think Chrome is the best browser available right now. If you don't feel like downloading anything, that's fine. You can just watch this part a little less hands-off.
Where is it taking these photos from? Because I can't get it past July 2012.
At some point, you must have had something connected to it that put some pictures up there.
Where?
On Google. Now, if you previously to Google Plus, it was called Picasa Web, and the little Picasa program many people ran locally, which we'll actually look at again tonight because it's still a good program and it still does a nice job, and it is completely free. At some period in time, that whole Picasa web albums thing has gone away, and it's all tied into Google now. So that's where it is.
So it can't go onto my hard drive on this machine and into my files that are stored on this hard drive.
You should be able to still download the full resolution files, and I can show that in a few minutes. Yeah.
It's pulling up some of my Facebook albums automatically, so if you have photos on Facebook, then it looks like it can pull some of those too. Yeah, it's weird. It's only a few albums and they're old, so I don't know, maybe at some point they were connected and then that's not.
Yeah, I would suspect that at some point. Okay, well I'm going to plow on because I see mostly happy people. Right? You laughed. Okay. All right. So again, I step back, and this is all in the browser. Yes, sorry, Chrome. I forgot about that. But these are really nice and impressive
and even kind of comprehensive tools that we have available to us. Now, those people who had their hands up well past the point and shoot to the DSLR, I imagine you all are maybe taking raw shots. So for those who don't know, when you use a DSLR and some advanced point and shoots now, you have two file formats that you can take pictures in. RAW, which is kind of a untouched by the camera digital negative, and a JPEG shot, where the camera takes it and in the camera processes a little bit. Benefit of JPEG is it gets compressed down, so it's a little bit smaller. It gets processed in the camera, so anybody's computer can view it. The benefit of RAW files is that because the camera doesn't touch it, you have much more control over how it looks in editing it afterwards. But you need to use special programs to do that. Any cameras that shoot RAW come with programs, or you can try something like Lightroom, which I absolutely love. I'm a nerd, aren't I? I really love some of these technology products, and Lightroom is one of them, and I'll show that a little bit later this evening as well. But it gives you incredible control. Let's say you've taken a really special picture, but for whatever reason you fumbled it, weren't paying attention to your exposure meter on the camera, and it's completely, or not completely, but it's well overexposed. With a RAW shot, you can almost always save that and really bring that exposure down. It's nice. We'll see. Okay. But let's just look at some of these adjustments. I just have this picture I took, I don't know, the other night of my desk. And you can come into, I don't want to do tune image. Let's go to, is this, oh yeah, okay. Details, tune image. Oh yeah, okay, I just had to scroll down. So we have these little sliders here where we can adjust the brightness of the image. And it does a pretty good job. Still not as good as a RAW in Lightroom, but not bad. A little bit of contrast. You can just say I'm going to just dramatically drag it back and forth so you can see the differences. And the one of the nice things is these are non-destructive edits that you're making here. That means that if you really increase the contrast and you send it out to Aunt Sally, who's a professional photographer, and she's like, you ruined that picture, too much contrast, you can come back in at a later date and dial it back down and then reshare it. That's really nice. Shadows brings up the shadows, and warmth is a slider from warm to cool. So that's photographers know that more as white balance is more of your warmth level. They just try to simplify it there. And they've got these kind of presets up here where you can just jump to. You want a moody looking desk, or you want it to pop. Or dark or neutral, just like that. And then anytime I can say cancel, and I'm back out of that, or I could apply to it. Selective gets, this is really impressive to me. And again, some of you are just walking in here, never seen these tools before. These are tools that up until about a year ago, we just did not have available to us anywhere other than specialized programs. And for them now to just be in the browser and there's just images uploaded, I like it. So I've got a little Commander Strong back there. I can click on his face to add a control point, and now I've got these little guys, brightness, contrast, saturation. You don't have quite as many sliders, but I can increase, we're not really going to see that. Let's maybe just increase the brightness of that area back there. Notice that it's a localized adjustment just in that area, and it fades itself out over the course of the image as well. So nice little things, contrast, that can be done right in that area. And you can add multiple ones. So that one was good there. Oops. This one I want to put down here on the mouse. And, just really, look, now the mouse looks black and white. And just apply that. Details is your sharpening and your structure. This is one where, again, in the camera, JPEG images are processed, and oftentimes a little bit of sharpness is added, a little bit of color, a little bit of punch. A lot of times I have people write me and say, I've got this fancy new DSLR, but the colors, the images don't look as good as my point and shoot from 5 years ago. That's because point and shoots are really dialed up to give you these kind of punchy, contrasty, colorful images, and DSLRs are a little bit dialed back, especially if you're shooting RAW, to give you these images that are more malleable, that you can work with. And when people first see that, they're like, I just spent $900 on this camera, and why? And a lot of times, one of the things is the sharpness isn't turned up very much, so you can increase that. Be careful. Folks who share pictures on Facebook, and, I haven't said much about Facebook tonight other than 350 million photos uploaded a day. I'm also all in on Facebook because it allows me to run my business, basically, of this is my Facebook page. And if it wasn't for Facebook, I wouldn't have been able to reach 11,233 people. So I was very negative about Facebook for many years. And as a photographer, we don't need to see my chat. I still am fairly negative about Facebook because they crunch the crap out of your pictures when you upload them there. And they have to, 350 million pictures a day. So they really compress them, and they also sharpen them because they know a lot are coming from cell phones. So I don't know, I don't have a percentage, but if I had to make one up to sound smart, I'd say like 80% of the pictures that are uploaded to Facebook each day are from cell phones, which oftentimes don't look great. So Facebook nicely says, oh, I'm going to add a little sharpening for you, and you have no control over that. And as a result, your pictures can look very crunchy very quickly. And I am not a big fan of that. So my point for all that blabbing was, if you're going to be sharing on Facebook, be careful about the amount of sharpness that you do. But since I'm talking about Facebook, one of the things that is tough about Google Plus and using all these cool features is there aren't really many people there. And your Aunt Sally, well, your Aunt Sally, if she's a professional photographer, she might be there. But most of your friends and family are not on Google Plus. So what do you do? So we'll look at how to share out in a minute. But let's finish with a little bit more editing. So let's say OK. And you can see it's getting a little noisy back there. Sharpness will really bring out the noise levels. So you want to be careful if you have a noisier picture. And you get a noisier picture by taking it in lower light and your camera's ISO being high. You can crop, of course. And then, of course, you've got all of these creative things here. And I don't have much opinion about these. They can be fun. I don't use them very often, except HDR scape. Who knows what an HDR is? What, you want to tell us?
It's high dynamic range. It's when you take more than one image at different exposures and then you combine them through a program, software.
Yep, great. Cameras cannot see nearly as well as our eyeballs can, and so in a situation where you have a big range from light, like a sky, to foliage, dark, the camera really shows that as much more contrasty than we see. So you can do just what this gentleman said, take several shots to expose for each of those, sandwich them together. Or you can use HDR scape for it will then do a little bit of magic and kind of make in virtually 3 different copies of this one image, expose each of them slightly differently, then sandwich them back together to get a little bit. It's kind of like bringing up your shadows and bringing your highlights down. But it does a nice job as well, and it usually is fairly subtle, which I appreciate. There are HDRs that look, how do I get into my other? There are HDRs that look very painterly. That one's a little bit more dramatic. That I don't personally care for, but they can look very interesting as well. So that one is neat. And then, of course, there are these other ones, and for folks who like Instagram and the filters on Instagram, these are very similar. And you can do that all here. So I'm going to say done editing. Any questions about that whirlwind look at the editing tools? There aren't a ton, but they have what you need, and they work fairly well when you want to share out a couple images. Now, if you wanted to edit, say, 50 or 100, then at once, it becomes a little less desirable to do that in the browser. But you can see that I have right down here, I can just go right to get to my next image, which is me, taken with another camera that has wireless that automatically uploaded to my phone and then automatically up to here. Now, let's see, under more, you can see that I can revert to original. That would be there if I came back here in a month or in a year. So it stores, it's pretty magical. It's not really storing a whole nother copy necessarily. It's storing all of the instructions for how you wanted it to look, basically. That's what we're going to say it's doing. And it does it well enough. Notice that I could download this photo now. So, ma'am, you were asking about how to get those photos that you found in Google Plus back onto your machine because you've got a new machine. You could download this. You probably don't want to do it individually, each one. You probably want to come to an album. And let's do that real quick. Let's go to, under more, there's albums.
Are you doing this on Chrome?
I am in Chrome. Yep. So we're in albums, and let's go to this album right here. There's some recent pictures I took on, well, you can see, with an iFi card, which is a very cool little thing. If you don't have a wireless camera, they have a little SD card. I don't have it with me, but it is no bigger than a normal SD card, and it has wireless built into the card as well. We live in the future, folks. I love it most of the time, except when things don't work. Then you get so mad. All right, so here I am in an album. Oh, it's over here. I have this little button. No, where is it? Under more here? No. Somewhere I should be able to say, download this album. I can share it out with people. We haven't talked about that. You can organize it. More is just for this section. Huh. You can see that I can do, this is the kind of the auto awesomeness that will automatically apply to the images as well. Oh, do I need to say all photos? No, it's all photos. Here.
It's under select.
Privately, under select, lets me do it, and then more, download. Ah, thank you. So yes, so I selected them, and then more, this sub menu came up, download, and it's going to download a zip file now that is all of those files, and your computer should have a zip program. And it's the full resolution of ones that went up there as well. I don't know if you edited these, if it would automatically. I don't know, because we had that option in the other one, so I'm not sure. We can also add things to events. One downside of Google Plus is that it can be a little confusing. And they recently added these stories, which is Google's attempt to kind of make smart albums. So it takes photos and videos and puts them into this kind of scrapbooking like thing. Weekend in Swanton and Williston. So I actually haven't even looked at this one. Hopefully there's nothing embarrassing. I don't think there is. Especially because we're streaming out to the whole world as it builds this. 26 people. Not that many. But this will be smart enough to say, all right, we see that you took a bunch of pictures on a certain date from a variety of sources. So it could be cell phone and your camera, and if you got them all in here, we're going to put them together, and it does videos as well, and it builds this little thing for you. Shouldn't take this long. While we're waiting, any questions on editing in Google Plus?
I'm having trouble. I'm sorry. The very first, before you go into the fine detail of editing, there's another option, like auto enhance.
Yes.
I'm having trouble finding how to do that. Just to auto enhance.
If you hold your mouse over the image itself, there should be a little watermark that comes up in the top right corner that lets you know whether or not enhancement is on or off.
Okay.
And clicking that, it's actually a button as well, should turn the enhancement on. Any other questions? And if not, let me know and we'll look at that.
Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? Let's see if that. It's what I said it is. It's this collection of pictures from a variety of sources that it puts together, and kind of a neat Indiana Jones, you know, when they do the transitions during those movies of the map and the movement and stuff. It's got all of that, and you don't have to do anything other than patiently wait for it to load. It usually doesn't. Let me try another one. Let's try Saturday afternoon and see if it loads any faster. But if not, it might not. Now, there were some people, we'll let that go. There were some people who didn't raise their hand when I said, do you have a Google account? Or maybe some of you don't want to sell your soul to Google with your photos. So there is other options for editing online, and one of them is Pixlr. In the very Web 2.0, it's left off most of the vowels except for the I. So Pixlr.com is a really cool tool, especially if you, how many of you have used Photoshop before? It's expensive. Now there is the new as in relatively within the last year, 18 months, you can rent Photoshop and Lightroom, which I'll touch on in a little bit later, for $9.99 a month. And I believe that's actually a good deal because Photoshop by itself costs about $600 unless you can get some kind of educational license. Lightroom costs about $100, $140 depending on whether it's on sale. And these two programs together is everything anybody working with any kind of images could use. Question?
I recently purchased Photoshop Elements.
Yes. Yep.
It seems, you know, it's less extended than the full Photoshop, but it has a variety of ways to enhance it.
It does, and
It was about $7.
yes, it's a good price. I actually have on my YouTube channel. I have a video where I talk about Photoshop versus Photoshop Elements versus Picasa, because there are other options out there that aren't as expensive. Photoshop Elements is a good one, and for the price, it's good. If you find yourself needing more power, though, that $9.99 rental deal is good, and that's the way a lot of this high-end software is going. You won't ever own it; you'll just rent it, which we can get into a long discussion about whether or not that's a great idea. But let me get into the pixel layer editor. Notice that there was another one there, but I want to go into the editor because this is even more impressive than Google's tools. And I'm going to say open an image from the computer, and I'm just going to grab something out of I have a Dropbox in the HOT workshop where you all are too. And let's see, let's do the kitty cat. Everybody loves kitty cats. Gail, you like this picture? I work with Gail, so I know she likes cats. So I can say that. Thanks, Gail. I think it's really interesting in this picture that his eyes look different color. It's just the way the light is catching him. He's got the same color eyes. They're usually mostly look like that. His name is Liam. So, again, you're welcome to kind of follow along and get an image, but I think just like a few minutes of playing in here, we have a lot of tools available to us. Oh, you know what? Actually, I want to open, did I put a different one in here? I'm going to go to a slightly different place because there is a different image that I want, this one, in here, because this is also really, oops, oh no, close that one, this one, okay. So this is pretty cool because you can come in here and just like Photoshop and other programs, I can highlight this little bird, tree swallow, I think. Edit, copy this layer, edit, paste, and suddenly I've got a twin bird. And again, I'm doing this all in the browser, and you know it doesn't quite line up there, but watch this. There's an eraser tool. I can come over here, and I got layers just like I have in Photoshop. So for folks who've worked in Photoshop before, I can, where is brush size? Up here I can get a bigger brush, and I can come over here, and I can start to blend that a little bit nicer, being really quick here, but then you can start to see, and if you're really sharp-eyed, you can notice that there is just a little bit of difference in the blue here because there's a gradient in the sky. The sky isn't perfectly one color. But by just erasing it just a little bit to make it uneven, and I have a fuzzy-edged brush, you can see that I've got that. That's gone now. Or let's say you wanted to take that layer and you wanted to make them look like they're twins. Flip layer. Oops, not. What are those Montezuma's birds that flip upside down? I wanted to do the other one. I wanted to do horizontal. So, and again, just take that eraser tool and just kind of do that. And you could even get the clone stamp tool for folks if you've ever worked on that before. And oops. And that takes a sampling from one area, and then you can kind of paint it in another. Actually, I'm trying to do that there. I sampled from the wrong layer. Oh, but it's not going to sample all layers. And here we go. I figured it out. I don't think we need to. Just made it worse, didn't I? Well, if you had more time, you could. You know, and so again, all in the browser, completely free. And one of the nice things about this tool is that there was no logging in, there was no giving any kind of account information. Oh, I am logged in. But you can do all of this without that. And then you can say File, Save. And you can save it to your computer. Say I want to say, you know, quality 100. Your JPEG quality usually should be somewhere between 80 and 90. It doesn't usually, between 90 and 100, there's no real visible difference to most human eyes, but so let's you type into, let's say 90. Oh, now I broke it by typing. There we go. So notice the file size is almost 1/5 of what it was before, and so then I can just save it down here. But I've got screen real estate problems, so I can't get to the save button. But that's Pixlr, and there is Pixlr Express too. See, it's because of this projector up here. I don't know why the projector is set so low. just grab something. And then this is very similar, but with more options to the Google. The downside, the upside of Google is that if you have it set up so that's where your photos are already going, then they're already there. The downside is that the tools aren't that full-featured. You may want some more. Maybe you want to doodle on top of your image, and then it will give you brushes, and you can doodle on top of your image and change the color and all of that stuff, just like that. Any questions about those things?
How do you print from here?
How do you print from here? So you would need to, let's say, if we went back to, you would download it and then open it up in whatever program you had that viewed JPEGs, and every computer comes with something. Macs come with Preview, Windows come with, I don't know, something. You would just print right there.
So these edits will appear in the albums in which they originally were filed.
Oh, so you're talking more of on the Google side of things. Like if you make changes to these edits, well, that might hold on to that question because we'll come back to that.
I was going to ask you if you're going to go into more organizing.
Yes. Yeah. That actually leads into the next part too. All right. Any more about these editing tools here? Okay. Good. So let's talk a little bit more seriously about editing in more detail, and that's when these online tools start to be a little bit less exciting because they're not easy to work with multiple images in so many different ways. The story's still never loaded. You can let's come back. Bless you. Let's come back here for a second and go to whoops. I just wanted to show one other thing in Google when you have a bunch of images in an album. So let's go to this one right here. So you can tag people, and this organization button here brings up this window where you can add, or you can only drag them around. Yes, so that's right. So you can only change the order of them here, and you can do that very nicely. But again, let's say you had 200 images, or a wedding we're delivering to a client, 700 images, and you wanted to put them in a certain order. That's not going to work so well. So then what do? So that's when you turn to programs on the computer, and you've got a couple different options. One of them is Picasa, if we want to stay in the Google world. I also have a son. His name is Henry. And Picasa was something that I recommended for a long time to lots of people. And it does a decent job. In a lot of ways, it's very similar to Google+. Think of it as an interface for Google+, but it's on your machine, and the images that it's working with are on your machine, and they don't need to be in the cloud or up on Google or anything like that. And what's nice about it is that it offers some automatically auto-importing. So it's you slide a camera card in here, it's going to slurp those images off that card for you, put them someplace in your document like a pictures folder. And then they're all right there. So let's say that I went to, here, I got this album right here. And I can bring up this little tags panel right here. So maybe I want to take a step back and say that there are a lot of different ways to organize your photos on your own machines. The first way that I would suggest, though, is by date, which I think many of you kind of said at the beginning. Have a general archive that starts with the year. And then within that, have it broken down by months or major events within that. And then some descriptive bit of text that gives you a little bit more information, like 2013, March, my trip to Seattle. And that gives you enough information to basically find this quickly. And if you have some other pictures, here's what happens to a lot of folks, though, is they went to Seattle in March 2013, took a bunch of pictures, but they didn't download them right away, and then they went to, the fair in Northampton, and then they went out for dinner afterwards. And so then they have these other random pictures that end up in there as well. And I don't have a good answer for that. The best answer is be religious about downloading the pictures after you take them. Don't leave them on the camera for weeks, months, years. except for that it can be fun to be discover, like, but.
I'll tell you how I do that, and I do get in that situation. You can drag and drop like Picasso. So on the desktop, I'll create a file for the miscellaneous images. Give it whatever that name is, and then drag it back in.
Yes, that's a great tip. And that is one of the nice things and one of the benefits of working with a desktop program is you have the ability to drag and drop. So let's say, for instance, that a couple of these were at the Vermont Country Store, and a couple of these were much later. So let's say that I realize that these 3 pictures don't belong in this group at all. And I can simply drag them and drop them in a different folder and say, yeah, I'm sure I want to move those files. And it instantly does that for you. And you can create new albums within Picasa. But here's where it starts to get me confused. Let's sample images for workshop. Is that Picasa has this idea of albums and folders, which can be confusing. Albums really are virtual, and images can exist. Actually, I don't know if they can exist in multiple albums, but they can exist in different folders and be all in one album. And so you really kind of need to go all in and decide whether or not you're going to use folders, which I recommend, because let's say in a year or 2 you decide you hate Picasa or they've made some change to it, you don't like it anymore, and if you've done all of these albums, you will be able to get your images out because they're not actually in here. But the organization system would be very messy. Whereas if you say, I'm only going to import these things into folders and point Picasa to them, then whatever program you're using in a year and 2 years and 3 years is still going to have that same organization scheme because you've built the foundation underneath. Does that make sense? That might be one of the most important things I've said yet in this workshop, is build this foundation, use the folders on your computer to set up the system that works best for you, then use whatever you want, like Picasa, to keep those things organized, but don't use Picasa's organization of albums, and that's the same with Lightroom too. That's how I work. Now, it's personal, though. I certainly meet some people that say this is how I do, and it works for them, and if it does, it's great. But I think this is good. But that only gets you so granular. Maybe when I went to Seattle, I took 1,000 photos, and I want to be able to find everyone that has a picture of Fiona in it, or everyone that I'm in, or everyone that is of a sunset. So that is where, and this is where it starts to get time-consuming, but I'll show you why it's worthwhile in a minute, I think, is where you start to add tags to images. And so let's say I've got this picture, and this picture, and this picture. I've just selected those 3, and it's all food. So I'm just going to type food, and now 3 pictures with food in them. And this I'm going to call a wedding. And it's up to you, but what you should do is come up with some keywords that work for you, and these would work on Google Plus too. When you get them up there, if I then searched for food, these pictures would definitely come up, even if Google wasn't sure that this was a hand holding food. So you are giving your photos some descriptors, tags, keywords is another name for this, and notice that it adds these down here as little buttons so that later, let's for instance say that this was at the wedding as well, I could do that. And notice that you can have multiple keywords for a single picture. That's where it gets really powerful, because you can have pictures that were in Vermont that are of food. Let me show you how this translates in real world. All of my personal pictures I still keep on SmugMug. And I have been keeping pictures here for about, I don't know, 2014, 8 years, going on 8 years. And I religiously keyword all of my pictures. And so I can get to a page here on SmugMug. It has all of my keywords. And I can come up with, show me every picture of frog that I've ever taken. And I've taken, it should tell me somewhere. I guess not that many. but pictures of frogs or videos of frogs. In this case, that's a video as well. So you can know. Why didn't I show SmugMug first instead of Google+? SmugMug is definitely not free. There is absolutely no free option. And when I started SmugMug, Google+ was not available, and Google Photos not available. It was a better option. I pay about $60 a year for unlimited space, and it works quite well for me.
There is actually a free option if you work for a not-for-profit organization.
Oh, for SmugMug? Oh, it's really nice that they do that.
It's a little complex getting it set up, but it's great.
That's great to know. That's really good to know. I know, I don't know them personally, but I know SmugMug as a company is very good, and hearing things like that reinforces it. They also are a small family-run company. So again, that whole kind of like selling your soul to Google, whose mantra is "do no evil," mantra. But they are a huge, huge corporation, and you don't quite know. I feel personally fine in putting images up on Google+, but you may feel otherwise. And so going with something like SmugMug is another option. And taking that time to keyword those in Picasa. And I skipped over a step, and that is the export from Picasa to someplace like SmugMug. It's quite easy. They build tools in there that do that for you. And then they're there, and you don't have to think about it, and you can go back and find pictures very easily. And also they do add, Malcolm, you had asked about combining, and show me every picture of a frog with Fiona, and then we got just one where she's got a little frog in her hand, as she's a little bit older there in that picture. So it took me a lot of time to keyword my pictures, but using tools like Picasa, you can do Control-A to select everything in this album and add, all of these were taken in Vermont. So I could say add Vermont, and then all of those pictures are taken in Vermont. And then I can say show me up here, I can show me wedding pictures. And instantly, as I'm starting to type that, it brings those back for me. So the plus sides of this is very fast, very easy to use. It's a free program, runs on your own machine. Downsides are you do have to install it, and it does want to do the albums thing, and you kind of have to sit down and approach this and say, this is how I'm going to do it first. Yes?
What if you have, like, your family, 4 people in your family? Can you, like, look for all the pictures of me in it, or all the pictures of my son in it?
Hey,
or do I have to identify every time I download pictures? Then I send to the picture on my
That's a great question, and that nicely leads into this next part. So let me get rid of this wedding search here. And notice over here on the left, it's got this people. And I did have to tell it a couple of times, and I will have to tell it a couple more times, who these people are. But then it does start to learn and uses its facial recognition, which you want to talk about creepy, but again, it's an awesome tool that works really well. So let's go in and say unnamed. So it says, you got these faces in here. I'm not sure who they are. And if it's like a random person in the background of the carnival or whatever, you can just X them out. But if you have, there it is. And so it's suggesting, it's at least smart enough to know it's not me or my mom. That's Barbara. So I can put that in there. And in this case, it's smart enough to say, hey, we think this is a great picture there. And it's got a creepy mannequin that is an example of a high ISO shot. I have no idea where it's pulling this from. So you can start to teach it. Now, I will say that there are mini cameras and more coming that have this built into the camera itself, where right when you take the picture, it's going to start tagging people. That's kind of your mid to advanced level point and shoots now. Some of them have that option as well. So as you bring them in, they're already going to be tagged as well. And then all of this information is, of course, going up to Google+. So let's say we wanted to, what I had this pictures here, and then you could say share. Oh, that's actually the cancel. You can say share, and share it up to Google+ right here. It's already connected in because I signed into that. Share the original size or best for sharing. So that's the other thing. We shouldn't be doing that email thing anymore where the picture opens up and you can only see a quarter of it in your email, because there are so many different ways to share these days. Okay. That was a great question. So that was the names. And then what I was going to show, so I want to touch on, we have about 20 minutes left. I want to just touch on another program. Well, I haven't talked about iPhoto at all. basically everything I said about Picasa is true of iPhoto. It's very similar. If you've got a Mac, it comes free. I think iPhoto wasn't happier earlier tonight because of this doesn't like being scrunched into the screen resolution. It looks different, but it honestly is very, very similar to Picasa. It doesn't tie into Google Plus as nice, but it does tie into the whole photo stream and all of that. It's kind of, it's really up to you what you use. If you have a Mac and it comes with iPhoto, it's probably what I would use. It has a concept of faces as well. Similar idea there, and you can work through, and then it will start to learn them. It also has a concept of places, which is if your photos have been tagged with a location, geolocation. Some cameras do this automatically. There are different ways to do it. After the fact, it will have that. And then instead of Google Plus, Apple has, their iCloud. And I don't like it personally, but that's a very personal opinion. I think it's just a little messy, and something that Apple has struggled to do is online stuff for quite some time. But one of the nice things is, and that's a whole nother topic, but sharing pictures with friends and family. One thing that iCloud does do nicely is my sister-in-law has shared this album, and anytime she takes a picture, it automatically is in my iPhoto. But the downside is this is the only place I see it. One of the things I like about Google Plus is it's platform agnostic. iPhoto and the iStream, it's not. You got to have a Mac and you got to have iPhoto or an iOS device. But her name is Teva, and she is a cutie. She lives in California, and I haven't got to hold her yet. So Picasa and iPhoto, because of our time, and I want to be able to answer lots more questions, I want to take just a few moments and talk a little bit about Lightroom. Anybody in here use Lightroom? Okay, good. This is like Picasa and like iPhoto, except on steroids. And remember I talked about shooting with a more advanced camera and shooting RAW format? This program is made to beautifully ingest any format that you are shooting in, the RAW or JPEG, allow you really nice controls of the files. Notice that, let's say I have to find, just those creepy ones. All right, this one's good. Here it is. This was, I think, is a RAW file. So, yes, CR2. So if I go over the develop panel, at first it's going to look a little scary. Let's close this bottom one here. But in a lot of ways, look, we got these sliders very similar to what we had in Google+. But I have a lot more control over the clarity of this image. Clarity is not the right word. I have a lot more control over this image using these sliders because it was in a RAW format. Notice how very cleanly the highlight slider really just affects the highlights area. Whereas if it was a JPEG, it isn't able to have such control. There's a lot more down here. This is pretty cool. You can really adjust. Let's get down to the, this is kind of magenta. You really change the color of just the flower. Oh, and we didn't do that one either. That's that selective color adjustment. I feel like it's a little gimmicky, but people love that, where where the image is all black and white, but part of it is color. One of Pixlr allows you to do that very easily. We didn't look at that. But there are just a ton of tools in here, and you can then export out very easily from here. But this is the power. Let's go back to the library real quick. And this is what has allowed me to tag so many images that I've worked on over the last 8 years. I don't have, this is actually a new, well, here, let's go to this, all photos, 1,000 photos. You can come down here to the keyword sprayer, and you can just enter in, let's hide this side thing over here. So I want to tag a bunch of these images Vermont, and then I literally just spray it on there. And so that's a very quick way, or I want to go through and say that's a Vermont picture, and that's a Vermont picture, and that's a Vermont picture. So very quickly assign those, and then say, okay, go back in and now do a bunch that's, bicycle. And that's a bicycle, and that's one. There's more there. You get the idea. So that is what has allowed me that, and plus you can do the Control A, or I gotta turn that spray paint cam back off. Oops. Oh, I just did tag every single one of them bicycle. But Control D. None are selected right now. let's make our thumbnails a little bit smaller. There we go. I could select this batch right through here, and I can go into my keywording. And, well, I already did. Let's say I wanted to change it to those to bike. And so those are now all bike. Also, the power of this program over the other ones, and I'm not suggesting that you all need to use this, but if you're working with a lot of photos, if you're thinking to yourself, I have a backlog of 1,000 photos to deal with, to edit, to tag, to keyword, you might want to consider spending about $100 or renting $9.99 a month, because what you can do is, I don't think I can really develop, no, because these are all in an external drive. You can edit one picture. Let's say you've gone out to some event, and afterwards you notice that all of the pictures could be exposed a little bit brighter. You could adjust it. All 100 of them, all 1,000 of them. In Lightroom, you fix one the way you want, and then you add a little sharpness, a little bit of contrast, and then you can simply apply that to all of the rest of the images all at once. That is really powerful, and like Google+, and this is true of Picasso too, these changes are non-destructive. It's not working on the actual image itself. It's, again, overlaying a set of instructions on top. And so in a month, and a year, and 3 years, you say, I don't like the look, the way I process this image, you can go back and make changes to it. The other big benefit, we're going down towards more serious than I think we need to get, but it's worth saying, is that if you take pictures in JPEG, and then you edit them in Picasa or iPhoto, every time you save that picture or make changes to it, a little bit of information is thrown out, because the way JPEG images work, they get compressed to stay nice and a nice file size for sharing and viewing. And over time, those compressions start to build up. And I don't want to sound dramatic, because it's really not that bad. I know some pro photographers that get the shutters and break out in hives when they talk about JPEGs because of this, but it's not that bad. But over time, your image can start to look crappy because of this editing and repeated compression and throwing information out. Whereas if you have raw files, or if you're working in one of these programs that doesn't touch the master copy, then you always have that to go back to without worrying about it getting recompressed over and over and over again. Question?
So how do you name the edited file if you still have the original file that you might have a name on?
In something like Lightroom, it just handles that all behind the scenes for you very nicely.
So when I go to a file, a list of photos, will I recognize that there are 2 photos there, an edited one and an original?
No, because the original is being edited, but the original is actually untouched. Behind the scenes, it makes a virtual copy. You don't actually ever need to see that, but you can make additional copies easily that don't take up any more space, because again, it says, here's this master file. This virtual copy I want to make black and white. This virtual copy I want to make super saturated. And that, again, is just 2 separate sets of instructions being applied each to the master image. So it's nice, and there's a reason why Lightroom sells very well. There's also a program called Aperture, but these are kind of the 2 standard. There are some other ones out there. And as I said, your cameras, if it shoots RAW, or if it's a more of a professional level camera, will come with those programs, but Lightroom has done a really nice job of doing that.
Are there layers in Lightroom?
There are not layers. That's a good question. Nope, you cannot do any kind of layering in Photoshop Elements, which does a good job of both organizational tool and giving you a little bit of Photoshop's power, like layers is a nice option as well. And as I said, there is that video I talk about Photoshop Elements versus Lightroom in a little bit more detail. I think we're good. I think we covered. Oh, I didn't mention Dropbox too much. So let's finish with Dropbox. An ode to Dropbox is what I'll call it. Dropbox is a program that you install on your computer or on your phone. Any files that you put in that folder on your computer, on your phone. Notice that I have my files over here in Windows, folks. It looks a little different, but it's the same. And I have a folder called Dropbox. And then within that, I have bunches of folders. Anything I put in here or into these folders is synced up to the cloud, to the Dropbox servers. and down to any other machines or devices that I have stuff installed on. So I can open my little, well, there's a special weather statement. I can open up Dropbox on my phone and say I want to access the HOT workshop folder. And you do have to have service unless you've pre-set up and said sync this anytime I add, automatically sync over. But then I can open up one of those images right on my thing. What I love about Dropbox is it's very easy to share with somebody a link to the folder. And if I say share this Dropbox link, it's pasted onto my clipboard. I don't know if it'll show us. A URL that's ridiculous, but it doesn't matter because you email it out to somebody and they don't have to have an account at Dropbox. They don't have to have anything at all. It will just come up in this nice, simple gallery. There's no editing tools, there's no organization tools, but it's a really nice way to share out images. And I don't think it's going to do it for me because it knows I'm a logged in person. Here, let me open up a secret window where it doesn't know I'm a logged in person. And there should be, well, the download button right here. I think that's, yeah. And then download as a zip or save to my Dropbox if I had a Dropbox. Oh, I know what I'm thinking of. If I go into an individual image, I can say download, and it will download the original. So one of the most common questions I get from folks through my camera review and recommendation site is I just need to share a couple of images with people and let them download the originals. Dropbox is the easiest way to do that. You just put them in the folder, share a link, email them the link, and say, here you go. It's free. Dropbox is free up to 2 gigabytes, which that's a pretty significant amount of space. You can't share millions of photos through it, but and you can pay them for more. Google Plus is free. I meant to mention this a while ago. Up to, what is it, like 10 or 20 gigabytes, and then beyond that, it's a charge per month. It's a pretty reasonable charge. If you keep your images that you upload to Google Plus under 2048 pixels longest side, they won't count against your file storage limit. So then you got infinity space. But 2048 isn't really big enough to do prints and stuff, so you can't really use it as backup. Whew. That was a lot. I hope that was useful stuff. We got about 10 minutes. As I said, business cards, plus you have lots of different ways to contact me through that Dropbox or through that Google Doc. I'm happy to answer questions in the future or now if you have questions. Yes?
With Dropbox, does it do what Google Plus does if you were trying to share photos from both a camera and your smartphone? Will it sync them in a chronological order?
Yes. It will from your, yes, well, if you install the app on your smartphone, it will automatically it'll ask you if you want to automatically back up, and it will keep them chronological. Any pictures you take, you would have to manually put in the same folder or set up some kind of thing to do that, and it would still keep them in chronological order, but you would need to get those camera folders.
Okay.
It doesn't have that little tool that Google provides of the auto thing. I don't think, they may have, I don't think it does, but it might. If you install it, it might ask. It's a good question. Yes. Okay.
Oh, well, I just wanted to ask, you were mentioning that when you send an email and a picture and you put it in an email and you send it and it takes up half the page.
Yeah.
Is there any way to avoid that?
If you're the sender?
Yeah.
If you're the sender, I think that you should do things like throw it up on Google and send out a link, or use Dropbox, or if you're sending out from something like Picasa, you should be able to, when you come in here, have a little email button, and I believe, I don't know what happens, but I don't know if I have a default email program on here. No, I haven't installed this yet. It will resize it for you. What happens if I say cancel that and choose the other one? 70 kilobytes, yeah. So it resized it to a nice email resizing size, which is useful most of the time, but there may be times where you want them to be able to have the original, and then that's where Dropbox is really nice.
If you have an iPad, which programs are easy to use, Dropbox or? I mean, Gmail isn't really useful full on iPad.
No, Dropbox is
You can't work on it on iPad.
right. Dropbox is good, and then Google's editing tools. There's an app called Snapseed, which is actually owned by Google, and it is identical to those editing tools that we looked at way back at the beginning that are in Google. So you can edit images right there on the iPad, and then save them to Dropbox if you wanted to. Dropbox really is just kind of a storage and syncing thing, though. It doesn't really let you share. I mean, it does let you share. It doesn't let you do any kind of editing, though.
The Google is
Snapseed. Snapseed. Yes. Yes. Oh, right. So, you know what I think happened, though, is I think, thank you for reminding me, I think because I'm not on the wireless here, it didn't want to upload the pictures. So one of the things you can say is don't back up my pictures. Although they got the little cloud icon. So let's go to my Google Plus, and we should see, I've done this, and let's just go to all photos. There's a sleepy cat. There's other pictures. I don't know why the new ones aren't here yet. They're all on my phone. So what is supposed to work is, oh no, it says it's backing them up right now, is that it does that awesome of automatically making a GIF. So what you need to imagine right now is that I pulled this page up and there was a GIF of the side of the room doing a nice little wave. When it does eventually show up, and it will, I'm confident it did, because last night I tested this. Oh, I don't know why it's not here. With my fingers thrumming on the keyboard, and it worked. But it just automatically made a little GIF of that. So it's a neat thing that you can take a burst of images and then automatically it turns it into a GIF, or an animated GIF, which for those who don't know is basically just like a little movie clip without any sound and doesn't require any special player. It just appears. So I'll put that in the Google thing and it will get sent out to you all and you can see it and be happy, or at least this side of the room. Sorry.
Yeah, really.
Sorry. Other questions? Okay. And if anybody wants to stay and ask questions, I'm happy to stay for a little while.
Everything you said about a smartphone would apply to a tablet?
Yes.
Basically a Google tablet?
Yes. Yep. Yep. But yeah, I'm running Android on here, and so it's the same. If it's a relatively recent one, the little Photos app that's built into the tablet has those same Google editing tools there. They're all right. Oh, I clicked the wrong thing. They're all right there, and I can pull up like this picture of the sleepy cat and make changes to it right here at the bottom. This little window, the things that I can do to it, like add drama to the sleeping cat.
Is it possible to pass along any printing or printer information in less than a minute?
You've got these nice pictures and you want to get them printed now.
Yeah.
That's a great question. First thing is all of you have a brightness, or should have a brightness. Oh, it does show up there, but it doesn't actually change the brightness. On my monitor, I'm changing the brightness. Anytime you're editing pictures, you should be working at your monitor at about half brightness, because it's very easy for the picture to look bright and beautiful and send it off to the printer and it's much darker, because our monitors can be much brighter than the printed material is often. So half brightness. I like MPix for serious prints. That's the letter mpix.com. They're very good. And I don't love Walgreens, although they do have these free deals every once in a while. If you sign up for their email, they'll do. And I usually will all right, sure, I'll get an 8x10 and give that to my mom. But the quality isn't great. So that's one place that I would say stay away from. I haven't done a whole lot of other printing in town. Monadnock Imaging over in Keene, they can do a very good job of prints for reasonable prices. And then, I think I meant to mention this, but one of the nice benefits of iPhoto is integration with their bookmaking tool and calendar, and those are awesome. you know, if you've never made a book out of your photos, oh my gosh, it's so much more fun than a 4x6 or a 5x7 or 8x10. And it's really easy. It might sound complicated, but I like Blurb a lot if you don't want to deal with iPhoto, blurb.com. And they have this bookmaker, and you literally just drag images in and move them around and add little captions. Really, really simple. Really nice tool. And then if you want to take another step, Artifact Uprising has a bunch of different kind of like signature printy stuff. I should have brought some of these products. I didn't think about this for the class stuff. They'll sell this little wood block with a slit in it and give you these 6 or 8 5x7 images that you are printed on this really nice archival, high quality paper. And you just can slide them in and change them every once in a while. Perfect little things. And you really, thank you for asking that question, because it's so easy to say, oh, we've got all our photos up here, this is wonderful. But if you don't print your pictures every once in a while, I highly recommend it. It's such a nice, tangible experience to have them around the house.
What was the name of the last one you just talked about?
Artifact Uprising.
There's several outfits that print books. Which ones do you recommend? Apple's very simple if you're using iPhoto. Blurb is very simple, but if you want to get fancier, again, Artifact Uprising. I've gotten some. They're a little bit smaller. Talk about hip. They're kind of painfully hip, but it's really nice products from them. And then, yeah, that's who I would go to. Yeah. Shutterfly is fine. Yep, Shutterfly is just fine.
You have your own printer?
I don't. My girlfriend, who's a professional photographer, who is the lead in this, whenever I mention Weddings Tonight, I'm her assistant, she's the lead. She has a Pixma Pro 100. It's good. It's huge. We don't use it a ton. All of the important stuff we send out. She uses White House custom color. They're high-end, they're expensive, but they do really nice work. MPix is right there with them, but has a little bit more consumer-friendly prices, I think. I don't see a huge difference when I'm using the two of them or comparing. Good questions. Cool. Thank you all.
Thank you.
And again, if you've got questions, let me hear them. Let's see.
Make sure you sign in and leave your email so we can email you out all the info from tonight.
And a business card.
Yep. I'm gonna just check out. If you want.
Everybody got it.
So much.
Yeah, really dark. Same whole time last week, we went out and waited in this like it's so dark. No, it's full of it. Sorry, the river.
Sorry about that wire being in your way the whole time.
You want me to unplug you?
Maybe you got used to it, ignored it.
Life is full of wires.
These laptops are supposed to be battery powered, so you shouldn't need it.
Oh, there it is.
Thank
Thank you. This is really good.
Oh, good.
Yeah, a
Good.
lot of
Thank you.
info. I have to look at all those printing sites because I've just used Shutterfly
Yeah.
and
They're good,
Snapfish.
too.
They're actually
Snapfish is
good
fine.
for
Yep.
little books.
Yep.
So,
Yep. They are.
yeah, thank
Nice.
you.
Good.
Yeah, this is great. I'm